me more about this film and how it came to be. What led you to this story?
I can't believe you asked me questions. Like, so honored. Thank you for being here. So I'm going to try to keep it serious.
What led you to the story?
Yes, this is actually the first film that I wrote. Before I thought about my transmitter, any of the documentaries, I wrote this film while I was a publicist. I was on the set of a film called Collateral, with Tom Cruise and David Pinkett, and I was a publicist for that film. It was directed by Michael Mann, and it was just something about being on that set. I don't know, it was something about that film that got me feeling like I wanted to write my LA story. That film was all set in Los Angeles. And so, yeah, my LA story had a lot to do about sisters that live in the communities that I grew up in, the conflict in the Long Beach area, and this, issue isn't even really an issue. It's just there. Like, where's your man? Where's your brother? Or where's my dad? Or whatever. Like, someone that's got somebody who's locked up, and so I just kind of wanted to look at that as a piece of this sister's story. And in writing it took on different kind of nuances. But yeah, it started with wanting to tell a story about my city and looking at the lives of a Black woman through that.
Now, Ava told me not to get too deep into her personal stuff, but folks want to know. So, first of all, how did you come by your name?
My name?
Your name.
Who's going to ask that question? Sorry. Scholar and legend. My name. It's interesting because my sisters and I are really the only DuVernays that I know. My mother married divorced out of the DuVernay family early on. So it's a remnant of a past relationship, but it's been kind of, my mother is interesting. I never told the story, but she, early on when I was a publicist, and my name would be on these films, these really famous films. At one point she came to me and she said, I don't know, I'm feeling some kind of way about, this Ava DuVernay. I was like, that's my name. I was like, what are you, I'm thinking that, because DuVernay to her had different associations. I just asked her to give me some time to recreate those associations so that she thought of them as me as opposed to this abusive relationship she's been in. So I think when we were at Sundance just a few months ago and Ava DuVernay, written and directed by, came up, she's like, okay, I'm over that now. But yeah, and then the first name was someone she liked in a soap opera. Not a fabulous story.
No, it is. And this is something that Sheena knows about since her time in LA. Could you talk about how music and spoken word really has been important to you as an artist and the work that you do?
Yeah. Not so much spoken word, but hip hop. It's interesting seeing Sheena here because when I see her, I think of running the streets of South Central. She was already an editor of a magazine that was really influential in hip hop culture at that time, Rap Pages. And so, we would be at these open mic nights at this really amazing legendary space in LA at the time called The Good Life, the Crenshaw District. And it'd be a hush, a whisper would go through the crowd. Like, oh, she left us there. Okay, everybody was just trying to fit their best. Yeah, I want to be in it. And so yeah, no, I mean, that was a really, music was really my first brush with being an artist anyway. And that life, and what that felt like, and kind of community around creating something. And I think, even though I didn't continue with music, like now in filmmaking, I recognize a lot of the same just emotions, the emotional current that runs through a group of people that love film as the same as a group of people that are gathering here in the city, Yeah. And so I miss that from the time I was a teenager, rhyming in South Central, freestyle, whatever, to like leaving, going into the corporate world and starting an agency. Like I was always around art and movies and entertainment, but I missed the real organic, like the artist who's doing it, because they ain't gonna be paid, they just love it. And so yeah, that I think that's a big part of why now with AFFRM and some of the things that I do, it feels full circle, like it's back to community. But in the middle, I have this big kind of glamorous Hollywood stop off where I was, you know, doing carpets and flying around the world and the stars. And I think that's why the filmmakers, none of that stuff really appeals to me, because I've seen the back of it. So that's not what I'm aspiring to in terms of, you know, a lot of filmmakers want that red carpet moment or that award show moment or what have you. But like when you've been backstage actually planning it or knowing the intricacies of what it's really about and what it's like, it's less of a, it's demystified. And so for me right now, it's just about making films and sharing with people.
Wow. I want to talk a lot about AFFRM, but just staying with this a little bit. So,
going to bring it back to the child.
No. What's your tribe?
Some Black folks in Compton, you know, just very, you know, Compton is a very southern community in that, you know, was a part of this, you know, great migration. And so Compton and South Central, we really get down to it, a lot of the, you know, the mannerisms, even the way that, you know, family moves about is very connected to down in the South. But when I go to the South, I see the connections. I see the South just 20 years removed. And so, yeah, I mean, you know, Compton, Linwood, Long Beach is this kind of tri-city area, and you know, my people are not artists, you know, in their own mind. I see them and think they're fabulous, but they, you know, don't regard what they do, whether it be the knitting or the crochet or the singing or the painting as art. They just regard it as what they love to do. So didn't grow up in a family that kind of encouraged institutionalized art making and that kind of thing. Just really, you know, regular folks in the CPT.
You really are at the vanguard of the Black independent film movement now. And there was a vanguard in the 70s, early 80s, who came out of UCLA, your alma mater. What did UCLA or in the LA film, what's called the LA Film Rebellion, did those films and those filmmakers have any influence on you? Any of those films that stayed with you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, LA Rebellion for me as a UCLA alumni is a huge deal. But I think also as a Black filmmaker, I mean, we have to kind of look at that. So being from LA and being from UCLA, Julie Dash and Charles Burnett, Ava DuVernay, and that whole kind of tribe of really young Black people at the time that were making really the first Black independent films that we were seeing, completely independent and outside of any kind of corporate permission, are hugely influential. I watched Ashes and Embers about right before I made Bill. Bradford and I watched Ashes and Embers, and you know, that film, no one has seen that film. That film was like, please go find that film. You can't buy it. You have to go to Central Bookstore in D.C. and ask, can I have it behind the counter? And they'll look at you, flash you up, and they may give it to you like that. Yeah, I hope a firm can put that out one day. But no, it's that group of people are hugely important, and also in looking at what happened to their film and what happened to their filmmaking, the different paths that they took and were taken on, you know, voluntarily and involuntarily in some ways. I think are things that we have to look at now. I mean, you have that period, the LA Rebellion, and then you have the 90s with the, you know, Robert Townsend and Marta Van Peebles and kind of this first fight. And it feels like there's a new thing happening now. And it's just a question of being able to look at those other kind of words of creativity and figure out what we want to take from that and what we want to do differently.
So, and what are some lessons? Actually, I'm really interested in some of the lessons that you've learned from your time in promotion, publicity, marketing, and as well as, what are some of the lessons you've gained from being in sort of other sides of the business?
I mean, I've run the business, you know, which I think is something that a lot of filmmakers, unfortunately, go into the industry not really having a clear understanding of the business side of the art. What people say in these rooms. early on in my career was shocking, but I could hear it again and again and again and again. The assumptions about us and what we like and what we do and how we think and who we are rampant and in all of those rooms. And so,
what are some of those assumptions?
everything you can imagine there to be. It's just the standard. You can pretty much. There's a big LA Times article about a year, I don't know, I think 4 or 5 months ago, kind of uncovering the demographics in the Academy, the Film Academy, the Academy that votes for the Oscars, Motion Picture Academy. And it was a really good article. It really got to the bottom of what everyone thought was, I'm sort of like that. And, but it was very presented in a journalistic manner. But ultimately, it was like, yeah, we knew this. Now it's confirmed with actual hard research that these journalists did, but ultimately, it's what we knew. And so what I hear in those rooms are what you know I hear. And so I think for me, taking that and marrying it to what I'm doing now is super empowering because I'm making these without any fantasies about what somebody's going to think of them or if it even matters if they think anything. Because ultimately, I feel very autonomous in what we're doing and very empowered by just doing it for a certain group of people and not striving to reach these other places that, are closed doors, as opposed to kind of trying to knock on closed doors about like building our own house and having our own door.